Hallo zusammen, willkommen zur heutigen Lektion. And today we shall be looking at Lektion 22, whereby we shall be looking at Verben conjugation, that is verb conjugation in English. And we are going to start with regular verbs, that is regelmäßig Verben. And I will start by saying that in this lesson, we shall be learning verb conjugation, that is Verben conjugation. And we shall be starting with the regular verbs, that is regelmäßig Verben. Verb conjugation means changing the verb depending on the action or the subject. And which are the subjects? I, you, he, she, it, you, they. Those are the subjects. So, verb conjugation means changing the verb depending on the action being done or the subject. We are going to start with the basic rules of regular verbs, and there is no shortcut of understanding this. You have to understand the rules the way they are. So, rule number 1, in the first person singular, that is ich, which means I, we do away with the last letter n. So in short, when we come to the first person singular, that is ich, we omit or we do away with the last letter, that is n. Rule number 2, in the second person singular, that is do, and remember do, it is informal. We do away with the last two letters. Remember, first person singular ish, we are doing away with the last letter. Now when we come to do, we are doing away with the last two letters, that is en and add st. So we do away with en and we add st. That is for do. Now, when we come to the third person singular, that is er, z, s. Remember, er means he, z means she, s means it. We do away with the last two letters, just like the way we did for do, that is en, and we add t. Remember, for do, we were doing away with the last two letters, that is en, but we were adding st. But when we come to the third person singular, still we are doing away with the last two letters, but in this case, we are not adding st, but we are adding t. Now, rule number 4, in the first person plural, that is wir, which means we, the verb does not change. Here, we don't do away with any letter. The verb still remains the way it is. It doesn't change. It remains static. Rule number 5, we have in the second person plural, that is ear. And remember, do is the singular form of ear, and ear is the plural form of do. So that's why I'm saying in the second person plural, that is ear, and it is informal, we do away with the last two letters, that is en, and add t. And you can notice that in the third person singular er, z, s, we do away with the last two letters, that is en, and add t. So rule number 3 and rule number 5, they are the same. Then rule number 6, in the second person singular, so remember it is in the second person singular, but now it is the formal, and plural, that is the formal, z. And remember this z is starting with capital S. And the third person plural, that is z, which means they, the verb does not change. So this rule is the same as rule number 4. In the first person plural, that is wir, the verb does not change. So wir and z, they share the same rule. And when you come to er, z, s, and ear, they share the same rule. Now, having looked at the rules, now I want us to go ahead and look at examples, that is by Spiele. And I'm going to start with the first verb, that is wohnen, and wohnen means to live. So I'm going to do the verb conjugation, and remember, we are going to start with ich. Remember ich, we were doing away with the last letter, that is n. So as you can see, when you do away with the last letter, which is n, we are remaining with wohne. So when you conjugate wohnen in ich, it remains to be wohne. Now, when you come to do, remember, you are doing away with the last two letters, that is en, and you are adding st. And this is what we have here. So, when you conjugate wohnen, it will be du wohnst. Now, when you go to s, we were doing away with the last two letters, and we are adding only t. Remember, for do we were adding st, but when you come to s, we were adding only t. That's why we have s, we have wohnt. When we come to wir, which is we, remember it was still remaining the same. We were not doing away with any letter. That's why we have wir, we have wohnen. When we were doing ihr, remember we were doing away with the last two letters and we were just adding t. That's why we have ihr wohnt. Z or the Z, it was still remaining the same. That's why we have wohnen. As you can see, there are some similarities. When you come to s and ear, we have wohnt. So those are the same. Now, when we come to wir and z or the z, we have wohnen. So they are the same. So s and ear, they are the same. Wir and z or the z, they are still the same. Now, I want us to go ahead and look Beispiele im Satz. And Beispiel Nummer 1, we have Ich wohne in Berlin. Ich wohne in Berlin. I live in Berlin. So that's all on wohnen. So let us go to the verb Nummer 2, and it will still follow the same rule as wohnen. So this one I'll just go faster on this, because if you have understood how we conjugate the wohnen, still verstehen, which means to understand, is going to follow the same rule. So conjugation, when you conjugate verstehe, it will be ich verstehe. Du, it will be verstehst. S, it will be versteht. Wir, it will be verstehen. It will still remain the same. Ihr, it will be verstehst, which is the same as s. Then z or the z, it will be verstehen. It will still remain the same, and it will be the same as wir. Now, I want us to go ahead and look at Beispiel im Satz. And Beispiel im Satz ist ich verstehe dich. Ich verstehe dich. That means I understand you. Beispiel Nummer 3, we have leben, which means to live or to exist. So conjugation, so we have ich lebe, du lebst, s, we have lebt, wir, we have leben, ihr, we have lebt, z, we have leben. And Beispiel im Satz, we have wir leben in Deutschland. So that means we live in German. So Beispiel Nummer 4, we have machen. That means to do or to make. When we conjugate, we have ich mache, du magst, s macht, wir machen, ihr macht, z or z, we have machen. So Beispiel im Satz, we have ich mache meine Hausaufgaben. Ich mache meine Hausaufgaben. I do my homework. Now, Beispiel Nummer 5, we have rufen, which means to call or to shout. So the conjugation will be ich rufe, du rufst, s, it will be ruft, wir, it will be rufen, ihr, it will be ruft, z, it will be rufen. So Beispiel im Satz, it will be ich rufe dich an. Ich rufe dich an. So ich means I, rufe, it is the verb rufen, which has been conjugated, dich an. Ich rufe dich. Ich rufe dich an. So that means I call you. In regular verbs, we have special rules, and note B number 1, we have a special rule for those verbs that are verb stem that ends with t, d, m, and n. If the verb stem ends in t, d, m, n, we add est in do. Remember, in the other verbs, we were adding only st. So, but in this rule, whereby the verb stem that end with t, d, m, and n, so we add est in do, and s and ear, we add et. Remember, we were just adding t, but now in this case, we are going to add et. So in do, we add est, but when it comes to as the s and ear, we add et. Now, I want us to go ahead and look at some of the examples that of the verbs that end with t, d, m, and n. And the first Beispiel, it is arbeiten, which arbeiten means to work. So the conjugation, it will be issue is going to remain the same, which is ich arbeite. But remember, do and as, this is where the change was coming to. Now, in do, we are going to add est. So it will be du arbeitest. In as, we are going to add at. That's why we have arbeitet. Wir arbeiten is going to remain the same. Ihr arbeiten, we are going to add et. That's why we have ihr arbeitet. Sie is going to remain the same. That's why we have arbeiten. Now, Beispiel im Satz, we have ich arbeite heute. Ich arbeite heute. I work today. Now, remember, arbeiten was the verb stem was ending with t. Now, I want us to go ahead and look at the verb that it's verb stem that end with d, and we have finden, which means to find. When you conjugate this, ich is going to remain the same, and we have ich finde. Remember, do and as and ear, they are the ones which are changing. In do, we are going to add est. So do findest, as we have findet, then ear we have findet. Now when you come to wir, which means we, and z is going to remain the same, which is finden, finden. Now, having looked at that, let us go ahead and look at Beispiel im Satz. Ich finde das Buch. Ich finde das Buch. I find the book. Now, having looked at that, I want us to go ahead and look at zeichnen. And remember, zeichnen, its verb stem is ending with n. Remember, we have looked at the verb which its verb stem has ended with t and d. Now we are going to look at the verb stem that is ending with n. And we have zeichnen, which means to draw. Conjugation. So ich is going to remain the same, which is ich, zeichne. Do, the s and ear is going to change. We are going to add est when it comes to do, and that's why we have do, zeichnest. The s and ear, we have zeichnet. Then wir and z is going to remain the same. And as you can see, we have zeichnen. Now, Beispiel im Satz, we have ich zeichne ein Bild. Ich zeichne ein Bild. I draw a picture. The next Beispiel, we have atmen, which means to breathe, and its verb stem is ending with m, and the conjugation will be ich will be atme, which remains the same. Do, remember do and as the s and here they are changing. When you come to do, we are going to add est. That's why we have do atmest. As the s we have atmet, same as here where we have atmen. Then wir and z we have atmen. So Beispiel im Satz, Beispiel im Satz we have ich atme tief. Ich atme tief. I breathe deeply. Now we have another note B, that is note B 2. We have another special rule, which is for s, set, and set. If the verb stem ends in s, set, and set, so we have, like in do, we drop s in st and remain with only t. So remember, when you are conjugating regular verbs, remember in do, you are dropping the last two letters, that is en, and we are adding st. But in this case of the verb stem that ends with se, set, and z, so we won't go ahead and add st after we drop the last two letters. We'll just go ahead and add t. So for better understanding, let us go and look at the verben that have their verb stem ending with s, set, and set. So examples, that is Beispiel. The first one we have reisen, which means to travel, and the conjugation is ich reise. Ich reise. So that is going to remain the same. Do, remember do we are adding st, but in this case it will be do reist. We are adding only t. When you come to as the s, it is going to remain the same. Like it's going to be the same as do, and it will be as the s, it will be raised, and still it will be the same as ear, which will also be raised. So in this case, do as the s and ear, it will be raised. And when we come to wir and z, it will still going to remain the same. That is reisen. Now, Beispiel im Satz: Ich reise nach Deutsch. I travel to German. Beispiel Nummer 2, we have heißen, which means to be called. And as you can see, the verb stem is ending with "-et", and conjugation it will be ich heiße. Do, sie es, and ihr, it will be heißt. And wir and sie, it will be heißen. So do, sie es, and ihr, it will be heißt, which will be the same. Wir and sie, it will be heißen. Beispiel im Satz: Ich heiße Daniel. Ich heiße Daniel. My name is Daniel. Beispiel Nummer 3, we have tanzen, which means to dance. As you can see, the verb stem is ending with set, and when you come to conjugate, ich, it will be tanze. Then do, sie es, and ihr, it will be tanzt, so it will be the same. Wir and sie, it will be tanzen. So do, sie es, and ihr, it will be the same, it will be tanzt. When you come to wir and sie, it will be tanzen. Now, Beispiel im Satz: ich tanze gern. Ich tanze gern. I like to dance. Now, having done that, that marks the end of today's lesson. And today we are just looking at regular verbs. And in our next lesson, we shall be looking at irregular verbs. Still, it will be on verb conjugation. But now we shall be looking at irregular verbs. It's my hope that you have understood something in today's lesson. And like I've always said, spare like few minutes of your time, practice on the same. Go ahead and find other verbs which you can go ahead and conjugate them so that you can understand much better. So having said that, that marks the end of today's lesson. And let us meet in the next lesson. Yeah, nothing much. So you just spare some time, practice on the same, practice on those rules. Remember, there were 2 rules: practice on the same, and you can do more exercise for that so that you can understand. And also you can just go ahead, or you can just do a recap on the basic rule so that you can understand on this. There's no shortcut on this. All you have to do is just to do memorize them and practice on them more frequently. So that's all. Let us meet in the next lesson. Tschüss, bis bald, bis morgen.